What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. This video goes out to all the Asians, mainly, right? But I'm also talking to those Africans, right? And usually this is Asians and Africans because they're the biggest perpetrators of this. You guys, when you get in, and I understand there are African Americans, right, that call themselves FBA, that also talk shit saying that they are better than you. I understand that. If you notice, I bang on them too and to remind them that they're not better than you. All right. As a matter of fact, most of the ones that call themselves FBI are stupid, and most of us are better than them. All right. But this goes to you Asian people. You guys seem to be under impression, right? And this only goes for those Asian people who can get them B1, B2 visas, right? Who get to win the lottery in your respective countries to come to America and reap the benefits of what my African-American ancestors and my African-American elders, who are still alive, by the way, this is not ancient times, this is recent times, who fought, right, and created legislation to allow you, right, to leave the country where you're from that's currently been exploited by this government, right, to build the white Wakandas you guys are so attracted to, right, and then they siphon, brain drain your country by tearing up your country to where you can't survive in it, and then you have no choice but come to the great America, right, and live in the Death Star, right? And then when you succeed, right, because a few of you do succeed, some of you arrogant Asians and Africans, some of you, right, you guys start to compare yourself with the native population and say that you guys are more successful than us. And you brag about it because you think that we're all on an even playing field because you know not what you stepped your ass into, right? And you think that you are equal to us when it comes to where we stand in this America, when in fact, the only reason you're standing is because our shoulders are strong. Do you understand? And you are, in fact, let me get this one clear. You are not smarter than us. You don't have a better work ethic than us. You're not more motivated to succeed than us. What you are cheap. That's what you are. That's the part y'all need to get through your head. You're not, you come over here, your parents force you to be engineers. Y'all don't want to be engineers. Your parents force you to be doctors. Y'all don't really want to be doctors. Your parents force you to do all these high-end STEM programs that none of you guys really want to do. That's why you're miserable, and your parents make you miserable, and your life is miserable, even though you make a ton of money, but you're miserable because that's not what you want to be doing in your life. But understand, you are all those things because there was a black guy who was doing it before you. There was a black woman who was doing it before you who had to fumble and strike and fight, and they had to go through all the white supremacist programs of dehumanization, disenfranchisement, and they had to succeed and excel in that hostile environment to create the situation where you can come and participate in those jobs and make $200,000, $300,000 a year, sometimes $500,000 a year, working for white corporations, working in America. Understand, you're being picked because you're cheaper, because the African American wants to get paid a certain amount, but that white man knows he can pay that African or that Asian lesser. He knows he can confuse that African Asian who will be more than happy to come to the U.S. or Canada or the West and get paid in the tune of hundreds of thousands in Western standard money, then to go back to their country where their currencies were devalued by America, by the way, so that doing the same job within their countries wouldn't pay them a tenth of that amount. So you would be happy with anything America gives you, even if by American standards you're not getting paid what you should be getting paid. You're happy anyway. That's why they come get you. Not because you're more exceptional. It's because you're cheap. But it's because you don't know the system of America. You think that you're better than everybody else. And if you want to do a comparison, right? If you want to do a proper comparison for you Afropeans and you Asians who like to compare yourselves to African Americans, how about you compare yourself to the African Americans who travel to your countries? And various other countries. How about you compare yourself to the African American diaspora, which is a small diaspora in of itself that travel to other countries and set up shop and go to their schools and start businesses and work at their corporations. How about you compare your expats who come to America with American expats who go to your countries, and we'll see who is having a bigger impact on the economy, who is more successful at traveling to another country and excelling. You see, that's why I, as an African American, will never compare myself to the everyday Nigerian. Because obviously I have an advantage if I can fly all the way to Nigeria and just build a house and start a business, and the average Nigerian, because they're in the system, they're in the cog, they're a piece of the system, they don't have that leverage or that opportunity. So I would never shit on a Nigerian for not being able to do what I can do, right? But somehow these Afropeans come to America, and these Asians come to America, right? And they get a whole buffet platter laid out for them. All they got to do is eat. They don't got to cook none of it. They don't got to gather the ingredients. And they think they're all high and mighty, not realizing that you just cheap, not better. So if you want to do some comparison, compare the African American, the everyday 9-to-5 African American, with the 9-to-5 in your country. So if you're from Ghana and you think you hot shit because you got a nice visa and you're in America, right, you're making a bunch of money, compare the regular African American, right, and our success rate being within the machine of America to the success rate of the people of Ghana in the machine of Ghana. Compare the success rate of you Indian people, right, who come to us, the very few of you guys who come here, right? Compare the African American. Don't compare it to your high level, your upsidities. Compare the African American, the everyday 9-to-5, to your everyday 9-to-5 Indian. Which one's more successful? And keep in mind, these are your systems ran by your people, so therefore you don't have the excuse of white supremacy. Because your white supremacy is 2-3 times over. Because the people who subjugate you look like you. So what's your excuse? The people we got documented evidence that we being subjugated and we still winning. Right? So if you're gonna compare something, Asian people, Afropeans, compare the everyday African American with the everyday Nigerian, the everyday Ghanaian, the everyday South African, the everyday Chinese person, the everyday Japanese person, huh? Compare it with the everyday European person. Yeah, let's even add them. Compare the everyday European in their countries being controlled by their own people to the African American. To the African American who is subjugated within his own country that he built by an authoritarian group of savage barbarians. Compare. Who got the most influence? Who got the most money? I think it would be African American. I think if you were compare apples to apples, African Americans are winning in its hands, and it doesn't. There's no close second. Latinos, the ones that got enough money to come over here and discriminate against other Latinos in order to capitulate to whiteness. How about we go to Central and South America? Let's compare your Latinos in your country, your 9-to-5ers, to African American 9-to-5ers. Who gonna win? Who more successful? Huh? You want to do some comparison? Compare your 9-to-5ers to our 9-to-5ers. And then compare the ones that got the money to go overseas and start businesses with your people that got the money to start businesses and don't got the backing of the government. See, if you Asian, if you Chinese, your businesses, no matter where you at, don't really belong to you. You've been backed by an entire authoritarian government that you got to pay your dues or else. You're not successful off the back of your own selves. Even a lot of you got to come to college, you're being sponsored by your state and you got to bring your ass back or else. You're not doing that off the power of yourself. A lot of you people who come to the Americas, y'all not doing it off the power of yourselves. You guys are being sponsored by corporations that view you as cheap labor because they don't want to pay their own people. Why do you think that people in England are complaining that they bring foreigners to England to work when you got all them poor English people there that can work? Because they want cheap labor. They're not going to pay those English people. They're not going to pay those French people. They're not going to pay those German people a fair wage when they can get some Indian, some Pakistani, some Nigerian, some Filipino to do it for 20% off. You're not smarter, you're cheaper. And you need to get that through your head and stop running around with that arrogance. Using the white man's divisions against other people. All you're doing is holding yourself down ultimately. But anyway, I just wanted to humble some of you guys. Y'all got to understand, y'all. If you want an example of a successful group of people who did it on their own while not getting sponsored, while constantly being attacked, right? You look at the African American. We are an example of a successful group of people who create trillions of dollars of purchasing power, right? Who are the most influential group of people on the planet, despite being purposely depicted as savage barbarians by savage barbarians. So for all you arrogant people that like to talk shit because you get your feelings hurt because there's a bunch of dumbass FBAs who are not as intelligent as the rest of us African Americans, because you operate on emotion, you like to take shots at all African Americans. I usually don't mess with the ones that talk shit about FBA. You can talk shit about FBA all you want because they're stupid. I talk shit about FBA. But where I draw the line is when you include the rest of us in there, because when you do that, now we fight. You better show some goddamn respect while y'all out here gallivanting online talking all this shit, when all I gotta do is dig up your shit to show you how much shit you really talking. Anyway, y'all gotta tell me what you think in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn some, teach some. I'm out.
Skyrocketed, and I don't understand why. Is it because we're so hardworking and successful and we're taking your jobs? Or because our people are CEOs of like big companies? Or is it because we know more than one language and you're just jealous? Like what is it?
Here's the thing. I have an answer, and I don't think anyone's gonna like it. I mean, sure, jealousy is a part of it, but let me get there, okay? Thanks to the work of Black Americans during the Civil Rights Movement, in 1965, the Hart-Sellers Act was signed, which was the piece of legislation that formally abolished the immigration quota system, particularly those quotas that restricted immigration from Asia. But now that white Americans had entered an era where they were expected to offer equality to a group of people that they had systematically discriminated against, they got creative. They decided to use the abolishing of the quota system to their advantage. Enter Indian immigrants post-1965. They brought us in to be a buffer class between white America and Black Americans, because they had no intention of actually legitimately instituting race-blind equality. So they cherry-picked a whole new class of people based on their ability to be successful in this country, instituted policies that would ensure that they were successful in this country, at least more successful than Black Americans, because they ensured Black Americans would still suffer under systemic racism that this new class of immigrants would not be subjected to. Not only did they bring in Indians who had the financial backing, education, and skill sets to be successful, they eliminated institutional barriers for us that they kept in place for Black Americans. Now, I am in no way saying that our parents' and grandparents' immigration stories are obstacle-free, but if they were privileged enough to make it through the process, once they got here, they didn't have as many issues getting loans to start their own businesses. When they wanted to get a home, they certainly weren't redlined the same way Black Americans were, forced into neighborhoods with poor infrastructure and environmentally unsafe conditions. And as for state-sanctioned violence, we barely met her. How many police brutality cases against Indians can you think of off the top of your head? I can think of that one grandfather in Texas, because they confused him for a Black guy. Our families broadly were given an incredibly fair opportunity to succeed in this country. Indians that came over the 60s, 70s, 80s, we are some of the last products of that propagandized American dream. And thanks to the sacrifices of Black Americans who put their bodies on the line decades before we ever arrived, we didn't struggle through segregation or Jim Crow. We could vote without poll taxes or fear of being lynched, and never forced to sit in the back of a bus. The system was set up for us to succeed. The trade-off we struck subconsciously for those privileges with white America was that we had to maintain our role as the buffer class between white and Black America. So long as we maintained and perpetuated enough anti-Blackness within our own ranks to ensure that racial solidarity would never be a thing, we had the green light, literally, to make as much money as we could. To a point. See, the problem with cherry picking a group of people that you believe will be more successful than the people that you are already discriminating against is if you don't check them, they can exceed your expectations. And that is exactly what Indians did. Outside of garden variety racism, there weren't really any guardrails in place to check us as a group, the way that there have always been for Black Americans. Or even Chinese Americans when they first got here. Or the Japanese Americans who were interned during World War II. We flourished because there were zero restriction. The thing is, when the economy starts to slow and white people struggle financially, they turn around and they try to figure out who to blame. And the most popular scapegoats since the dawn of time have been immigrants and poor people. When you can point to a brown immigrant that is doing better than you're doing, all of a sudden you have white people reevaluating the entire system. Because Dr. Patel has 3 Mercedes and skis in Aspen, and they're going, I can't afford groceries. That must be her fault. So when conservatives tell their fellow white people that it's the immigrants, you get shit like this.
You fat ass, go back to your fucking country and get your little fucking return job. To stay out of America.
And this, and this, and this. So yeah, the vast majority of the racism that you're feeling and seeing online is partially a response to jealousy, perpetuated by white people. It's white people paying bot farms to circulate it even more because they are pissed. They turned a blind eye and they let us get too successful. Now, I know there are going to be some of you that will try to get into my comment section to say something along the lines of, well, I've seen Black Americans perpetuate prejudice against Indian Americans as well. Potentially you've seen anti-immigrant sentiments from Black Americans, especially given the horrors that they've been dealing with after the utterly unjust Rick Chow acquittal, after the insanely insensitive responses from other Asians about their intentions to boycott particular businesses that disrespect them as a group. I've seen it. Those sentiments, whenever you see them from Black Americans, the thing is, they don't stem from us looking different or speaking in a different language or the smell of our food, the way it does for white people. They are rooted in frustration and protectiveness because more often than not, they experience disrespect and hate from us in response to their ancestors making every sacrifice so that we, incidentally, could enjoy success. Instead of turning around and looking at Black Americans with appreciation for what they did, the vast majority of us leaned into the separation, leaned into being the buffer, leaned into the anti-Blackness. We turned around and looked down on a group of people because we said, hey, my grandfather with 12 pennies in his pocket established an entire life for us, and now we have a mansion in Texas and a beach house in New Jersey. They've been here for longer than we have, clearly just lazy. Instead of understanding everything that was designed to keep us ahead and limit their potential, we put our heads down and we chose not to make waves. And because we did that for so long, the white supremacy is coming for us too. So if you're wondering about the sudden uptick in anti-Indian hate, that's the long answer.
Just a friendly reminder that Black people have helped every single oppressed group fight for their rights, just to have every single one of those groups turn their backs on us. Just a friendly reminder.
Fuck them again. Fuck them. Them and you is not friend. Fuck them. Them no need to be in your life. So why you making them cause you nothing but trouble and strife? Fuck them.
Free Sudan. Boycott diamonds and gold. Free Sudan. Boycott diamonds and gold. We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.